All right, let's go to Victoria now, where despite the majority of Victorians voting no to the voice last year, the government in Victoria is persisting with treaty negotiations, officially kicking them off today.
The path I'm committed to, the path I'm determined to walk on with First Peoples in this state is the path towards treaty. And why I am so determined to walk on this path is because I am guided by the evidence.
Joining me now, Shadow Indigenous Australians Minister Jacinta Price. Well, Senator, welcome. We'll get to some other federal issues in a moment, but where's the mandate for a treaty in Victoria that's going to pit some Victorians against other Victorians when even woke Victoria rejected the voice?
Oh, look, exactly, Peter. I mean, where's the mandate to go forward with treaty? But also, where's this evidence that the Premier is talking about in relation to treaty going forward? I was just in New Zealand a couple of weeks ago speaking to the government there, and they have been telling me, and we're talking, they've got various different parties with Māori people right throughout, and they have told me that the treaty has not worked for them in New Zealand. The Waitangi Tribunal that was set up because of the treaty has actually set New Zealand backward. And what they have now is a tribunal that is anti-development. It has done nothing to support marginalised Māoris in that country, which is why they're now, looking at all these reforms before them. So I don't know what the Premier is talking about when she's talking about evidence.
No, it's shocking. We will stay on that issue, and of course it'll include big reparations. We'll come back to that another time, but let's go to that motion. We were going to have a chat last night. Of course, you were caught up on the Senate floor putting forward the arguments for an urgent inquiry into the growing use of cultural heritage laws. We've talked before about the Blaney gold mine in New South Wales. We've talked before, of course, about the climbing ban at Mount Arapiles in Victoria, the closure of Mount Warning in New South Wales, and also the proposed closure of Lake Eyre in South Australia. Now, I understand it's not been put to a vote yet, but just run us through where you think this might be and why is it so important, Jacinta, to have a Fed income inquiry at a federal level?
Look, it's really important, Peter, because what we're seeing is the weaponisation of the Cultural Heritage Act so that, those who are against development in this country, the activists, are utilising this in order to stop development, in order to stop access to parts of our country for the benefit of all Australians. And as far as I'm concerned, it's utterly un-Australian, and it's not what this Act was designed to do. So we need this inquiry because we need to understand those impacts, especially when, you've got governments like the Victoria government who will go ahead and shut down access for climbers to Mount Arapiles, where the climbers did not have the opportunity to be consulted in that process about how it might affect them. It's going to damage tourism in the area for small communities that might have to then get shut down because they rely on tourism in their area to actually stay alive. I mean, this has repercussions right across our country, and we've got Minister Plibersek who shut down the gold mine. She doesn't seem to care that the local land council were all in favour of it. One of the jobs and the opportunity, not just for them, but for the wider community as well. And we can't continue down this path without really understanding the impacts, and that's why we need this inquiry.
Are you getting a fair hearing from the crossbench?
Yeah, look, there is some hope. We will see how the crossbench fares. We know that there are some senators who like to feel like they would get a deal out of the government if they support the government's wishes in this. We'll wait and see until for it to come to the vote, but they do need to keep in mind this also affects the impacts of treaty as well, which is part of what forms part of the motion as well, the possible impact of treaty across our country. And we all need to understand this before we toddle along down this road. We've seen the negative impacts so far. with the Blaney decision, of course, the other areas of our country, we need to understand it more broadly. And I do hope the crossbenchers are smart enough, have in their minds what it means to represent all Australians in this going forward, so that we can make better decisions.
Hey, just before we go, Cricket Australia, they've come out to say that they'll continue to schedule matches on Australia Day. There's a few activists, of course, who don't want this to happen. They say it is insensitive. However, they say that they will consult with Indigenous groups about fixtures on the day moving forward. Now, how about consulting with everyone and not just Indigenous groups?
Exactly right. How about the fans of cricket right across the country? You know, why is it that all of a sudden Cricket Australian groups like this have to turn around and say, oh, we better consult a group of Indigenous Australians? Which ones? Which Indigenous Australians are you going to consult? Those who were in favour of activism and changing the date of Australia Day, or those who are proud to call themselves Australian in this country, who voted no during the referendum, who are sick to death of the separatism and being painted as victims constantly? I think, again, in sports, we just need to get on with it. We need to get on with what it means to be Australian. Sport needs to stick to sport and stay out of politics.
100%. You made that point last year and they're still not bloody well listening. Thank you, Jacinta. Safe trip home.